The meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Garcia has asked to be excused. Director Herndon?
Present.
Director Jackson has asked to be excused. Director Leonard?
Present.
Director O'Halloran has asked to be excused. Director Seamson?
Present.
Director Zambor?
Present.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
That's 5 members present.
The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members in the audience who wish to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in person from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Tonight, we will continue our discussion and public hearing on the proposed FY25 budget. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to our Secretary, Ms. Koala. You may comment on the budget in general or on the amendments that are attached to tonight's agenda. After the public hearing portion of the meeting has concluded, the committee will consider proposed amendments and take action. Virtual speakers are asked to remain on the platform until you are called upon. After speaking, virtual speakers may follow the rest of the meeting using the broadcast information previously mentioned. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Written testimony will be accepted for the transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Orders dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called, and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, the individual will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. No one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on the stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meetings, agendas, and minutes page of the MPS website. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is consideration of the 2024-25 Superintendent's proposed budget with possible action on proposed budgetary amendments. The recommendation is that the board determine how it wishes to proceed with the amendments.
Okay, we will first hear from the administration, then we will go to public testimony, and then we will go to the board members, at which point we will be in committee. So just as a reminder to our listening audience, we will not have individual public testimony after amendments. We will take them all at once. So if you're looking to comment on amendment, please do that while you come up to the podium. Once we take your comments, we will move right into committee meetings. So I will hand it over to administration.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Strategic Planning and Budget Committee. I'm Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. As you know, the administration presented the proposed budget for the 24-25 school year to this committee on May 7th. We have seen good work funded by the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Grant and have made significant efforts to continue these services while everywhere that's possible. This has been a large part thanks to the generous support of the Milwaukee voters who voted to approve the spring 2024 referendum. To Milwaukee voters, I would like to say thank you for supporting the Milwaukee Public Schools District and our students. On Tuesday's statutory hearing, board members and the administration listened to the community concerns. It is clear that the board members are receptive to their constituents' concerns, as the amendments that you will consider tonight are aimed at addressing the issues raised by the community. Before you consider these amendments, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the viewing possible the public to take a look at ways the 2024-25 proposed budget supports our students through high-quality, trauma-informed mental health services and advances in our efforts to improve equity, access, and inclusion in Milwaukee. The 2024-25 proposed budget supports nearly $11 million in central funded school guidance counselors, 122 school counselors, 178 school social workers, nearly $2 million for central funded college access centers, and $4.5 million for 28 FTEs to support restorative practice, equity, access and inclusion, and gender identity and inclusion. The administration believes that 24-25 budget successfully invests in students while preserving the district's financial outlook. Thank you for your consideration of the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Administration. Secretary, can we please go to public comment on the virtual platform first?
Certainly. We have two individuals on the virtual platform. Again, when your name is called, please state your name, spell your last name, and give your comments. The first speaker is Robin Harris. Robin Harris. Perhaps we can try Robin again. The next speaker on the platform is Sierra Brown. Sierra Brown.
Hello, Director Gopal Gandhi, members of the board. My name is Sierra Brown, B-R-O-W-N. I guess I came here to find out more about the amendments. So I guess I wish that the administration's presentation could have elaborated as far as members of the public coming to this meeting to learn about what's happening with the budget. Also, having public testimony prior to hearing from the board members doesn't really allow for us to ask informed questions. I really have nothing more to say because I haven't had time to look at the amended budget or have any understanding of the differences. So structurally, I don't know that this is accessible to the public, which is my biggest concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is Robin Harris on the platform? Robin Harris?
Yep, I am here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Please state your name, spell your last name, and give your comments.
Robin Harris, R-O-B-I-N-H-A-R-R-I. Director Gopal Gandhi and members of the board, as well as the MPS administration. I am one of 6 instructional coaches of K-12 literacy currently serving MPS, and I'm horrified to learn that on April 5th, the post-referendum approval budget was eliminating 3 of our 7 positions. 1 has been unfilled since January 24 when a colleague retired. How is it possible that our leaders, both from the district and school board, can believe our schools, staff, and students need less support in literacy. All data says otherwise. Currently, 52% of high school freshmen do not pass English 9. All anecdotal evidence points fiercely in the direction of needing more support, not less. I've been at a loss for how to best illuminate the chasm that exists between what we have, what we are doing, and what we need to close it. I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the budget for the 2024-25 academic year for a myriad of reasons, but most pressingly for the lack of funding being allocated to literacy within the Department of Academics, Curriculum, and Instruction. More specifically, I'm concerned with how the lack of adequate staffing in literacy will continue to negatively impact the schools in our district. As it stands next year, I will be the only staff member in the literacy department who is licensed to teach English language arts, grades 6 through 12, has experience teaching high school English, and holds an advanced degree alongside additional qualifications specific to ELA instruction at the secondary level. My colleague with similar credentials and experience has been accessed, even though she has her K-12 reading specialist certification and reading teacher license, all areas of expertise we need now more than ever. Additionally, we lost another colleague with experience in the middle years, which we could also use that support. We know the pressure to prepare for the ramifications of Wisconsin Act 20 on early literacy instruction is high, but our high schools and high school English language arts teachers need the support. It is a specific, unique content area and needs our attention immediately. At our 24 high schools, we have approximately 110 English language arts teachers, and unlike the K-12 model, literacy is scheduled for specific minutes of the day. Our 107 ELA teachers are teaching literacy all day, every day to different students. Between the two of us working focused as much as possible in high school, we have just started to scratch the surface of the critical work that needs to be done. We are launching a new textbook, realigning our English 9 and 10 curriculum next year, and we need coaches to work strictly with the high school teachers. That need will be greater than ever. Beyond English language arts is a content area with its own specific needs. All secondary coursework is rooted in literacy. Again, I ask, how can we begin to move forward with what needs to be done to increase high school students' pass rate with only one instructional coach of literacy at the helm? Just me. I believe moving
Thank
forward.
you.
with
Your
this proposal-
time is up. We will move to our in-person testimony. Gina Jorgensen. The next person will be Cara Slingerland, and then lastly will be Katie Caldwell.
Director Golengandi, I'm worried about mispronouncing your name. My name is Gina Jorgensen, Jorgensen. Anything else? I can start? Okay. I've worked for the students of Milwaukee Public Schools for 25 years, most recently at North Division High School. In April, MPS wrongfully accessed me from my visual arts teacher position. I have 25 years seniority in this district, and I was accessed. Either MPS never consulted the seniority list per the MPS policy, or administration purposely violated the seniority agreement. MPS administration has been informed of their error and has said that they will not honor the decades-old agreement of seniority. MPS administration also violated the staff exchange process agreement with MTA, failing to notify me and other central office teachers by the February 29th deadline. I and many others were robbed of opportunities to apply for positions in Cycle A. Why is MPS cutting positions that retain new teachers in our schools when we are trying to retain them in a teacher shortage? I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous right now. I'm very passionate about this. So, one visual art teacher mentor is not enough for this district. I've been in this position for 3 years, and I have helped save jobs. So many teachers are struggling, and we have new teachers that are going to be starting, and they need this support. I have a lot more to give to MPS students. A lot of you know me. You know how I've been dedicated to my students. So I sit here and I don't have a position for fall. I don't have a position, and I've been in this district for 25 years. So now I sit and wonder, do I leave MPS? Do I go somewhere else? What do I do? Or are you going to make this right? In this envelope, I have letters from 4 of my mentees. I have several copies for you. And this is their testimony and statement to what I have given them and our department has given them and why they stayed in this district, because it wouldn't be happening without with the support of our department, the Fine Arts Department. And these are people that come in with no degree, no teaching experience, and we give them all the tools to be successful as much as we possibly can. So I encourage you to please read this.
Thank you. Your time is up. Our next speaker will be Kara Slingerland.
Good evening. My name is Kara Slingerland, Slingerland. Director Gokul and members of the board, last week I shared that my literacy instructional coach position was accessed and that administration's claims that teachers are being shifted into classrooms is untrue, as I still remain unassigned. I don't know where I'm going next year, even though final exams start tomorrow. When teachers get to the stage in their careers where I'm at now, they learn to fight for newer teachers as others did for them. And if I have to fight so hard to find a literacy position in this district and plea with administration to follow their own seniority policies, I know it is even more difficult for new teachers. While I am currently pressing HR to recognize a position I rightly received in Cycle B, I know new English teachers who haven't even been allowed to sign their contracts despite being hired over a month ago. Attract and retain remains a slogan and not a practice by HR in this administration. But that is not entirely why I'm here tonight. I'm here to address what isn't being said. Last week, I heard admin's justifications for cutting literacy positions, but I didn't hear any plans to address the fact that 52% of ninth graders fail their English class. This percentage rises to 62% when disaggregated for Black males and 64% when disaggregated for First Nations students. I haven't heard, and I still haven't seen any budget amendments to address the STAR scores on page 4B-20 of this budget. Early literacy STAR scores show that 31% of K-3 students are significantly below target. However, the disparity is once again greater when students reach high school. 61% of ninth graders are listed as significantly below target. At the top of the meeting, none of the areas that Dr. Posley mentioned that were funded by the referendum were academic. What I do see are more untrue claims. On page 4B-12 of the budget, it states all traditional middle and high schools offer intervention courses in reading. This is patently false. This year, only 8 of all of the high schools I support offered a reading intervention class. Clearly not enough to meet the needs of our students. The public entrusted this board and administration with using referendum money to improve academic outcomes, and all I've heard is silence on this matter. I implore the board to ask the Office of Academics to outline the steps they are taking, especially in our high schools, to increase literacy achievement and English 9 pass rates. What resources are they using? How will they measure their success? Have they even identified what to improve? The public is counting on specific answers to these questions, and if these questions can't be readily answered, then the silence will again be all the answer the public needs. Thank you.
Next is Katie Caldwell. No worries, we're just waiting. I'm just gonna okay, go ahead, thank you.
Great. Katie Coldwell, Coldwell. I come to you this evening with a message from students in a second grade class, so here it is.
Dear school board and administration, we are Miss Robertson's second grade class in room 15 at Morganville School. We want to tell you about the morning circles and the peace bridge in our classroom. Our teacher, Miss Robertson, learned about the circle process through the Restorative practice department and the support of our Restorative practice coach, Miss Katie. We do a community building circle in our classroom every day. During circle time, we use a talking piece so every voice is heard and we listen to each other. The different people bring the talking piece and share a story about why it is important to them. Circle has taught us how to be kind, respectful, and honest. Sometimes we play games to build community. Our classroom wouldn't be the same without circles.
We also use a peace bridge when we have a conflict with someone. The peace bridge helps us talk about our feelings and lets people know what we need. We come up with solutions together so we can still be friends. We end up with a handshake, fist bump, or a high five or hug. Our teacher likes that we can do it all by ourselves. It helps us to be responsible and accountable for our actions. Thank you for listening. Hip, hip, hooray, room 15. Sincerely, Emiliano, Omar, Fatima, St. Amran, Peyton, Nar Aisha, Vinny, Alex D, Leilani, Amelia, Layla, Saeed, Alex Martin, Angel Diamante, Imam, Josiah Abdul Hakim Daniel, and Miss Robertson, and Miss Katie.
Thank you. Well, I think we can say hands down, that's the best public testimony I've heard since I've been on the board, so thank you for that. Next, we'll go to Mr. Kennedy.
Kennedy. It's all about education. It's all about the kids. All about their future. We need the teachers. We need MPS badly, strongly. How are they going to learn? How are they going to read? How are they going to write? How are they going to get to college if you cut what this budget cut? It's amazing how you guys or people find money for the Miller Ballpark, $500 million. They find money for downtown. They find money for the choo-choo train downtown nobody rides on. They find money for everything around the city. But when it comes to the kids in the city of Milwaukee, they turn their head and look the other way. Is it really all about that? Is it all about money? Really? Our kids need education. A lot of kids don't have shoes on their feet, don't have coats, don't have food to eat. And the kids and the teachers deal with them every day, really, you know? And these kids come to school to learn. We need these positions to stay open. I'm so sick and tired of our elected officials turning their head, looking the other way when it comes to NPS. It's wrong. It's so wrong, including our governor. And something got to be done. Voting time, election time is coming. And don't forget that, because it took education for you guys to get to where you at. So what about our kids? What about the kids today? What about the students, high school, junior high school, all our kids? They can't be here right now. They need us. If we don't stand, who's going to stand for them? They really need us. It shouldn't be about money. We're building all this stuff around this city, and there's enough money in the city to give MPS whatever they want. $240-something million. They ain't enough money. We need like about $500 million, $700 million, $800 million. I don't care. I would pay the taxes for my students, for my kids in my community, in the city of Milwaukee. I'll gladly pay it because it's needed badly. The teachers are needed, and the students need the teachers. They need each other. So whatever it takes to make this happen, I'm with it. You want to raise taxes? Let's do it, because it's all about MPS and the kids in the city of Milwaukee, and it's time for people to stop looking at this money thing. It's all about money. We got $45 million for the homeless, and that's somewhere in the air. We got money for the county zoo. We got money for Miller Ballpark. Got money for downtown, everything around this city. But when it comes to MPS, they turn their head and look the other way. It's ridiculous.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I will now call Clarence P. Nicholas. Nicholas, please correct me if I said that incorrectly.
Good evening. Clarence P. Nicholas, Nicholas, I'm the president of the Milwaukee branch NAACP. The NAACP Executive Committee will be meeting on Saturday, May 18th, 2024. And a position paper is being put together for educational demands. We supported the referendum, and there are many questions about the budget that we're looking at. Nonetheless, we do not support the cuts. And when we look at what's going on now with the proposed cuts, plus things that are not where we thought they would be based on the referendum, it's disheartening. But then we will send a position paper as well as information that's needed to you, the board, Office of Governance, and I'm certain that there'll be protests, but thank you anyway.
Thank you. Last call for anyone who has not filled out a speaker slip that would like to talk.
I have no additional speaker slips, Madam Chair.
Okay. then we will move into committee. And I will just, if committee members are okay with it, I'll just go around the circle currently, or Ms. Secretary Koala?
Am I understanding that it's your intent just to have some general discussion first?
Yeah, just
Before
like-
going into amendments?
Is that okay? Or
It's your call as the chair.
Yeah, if anyone wants to make any general comments, I just wanted to open it up from the committee before we go back to administration. Okay. Great. So then we'll move into committee now, okay? This meeting is now in committee. We will move on to considering the proposed budget amendments. After each amendment is called, we will have a discussion and take action. Madam Secretary, what is the first amendment?
The first amendment is Amendment 1 by Director O'Halloran on the Communications Associate 2 position. The amendment proposes using the vacancy adjustment to maintain the position of Communications Associate 2.
The sponsor of this amendment is excused tonight, so are there any comments from administration?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I have Nick Simram, who's going to walk us through this item. Nick?
Thank you. Nick Sinram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. Chair Kokogandhi, committee members. The amendment was to add a Communications Associate 2 position, or return it to the budget to the Office of Communications and Marketing with a total impact of $138,600. The administration supports multilingual learning, which increases access to educational services and supports the development of valuable bilingual skills. Rather than eliminating this position in the 2024-25 budget, the administration moved the position to the Department of Bilingual and Multicultural Education within the Office of Academics. The position will continue to provide the same services to students and constituents and was moved to the Office of Academics to better align the role with the expertise and operations of the department and office. As the position remains in the budget, the administration believes this amendment is no longer necessary. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Seamson, are you reaching for the microphone?
I am reaching.
Okay,
for the
great, go
microphone.
ahead.
Thank you. So I feel, I don't know if my colleagues have any questions, but I feel assured that this position remains in the district and it's available for families and students. And I'm just wondering what the procedure would be then for setting this amendment aside.
Since the position has not been eliminated and it appears that the amendment is not necessary, a motion could be made to place the amendment on file.
All right, then I move that we place this amendment on file.
Okay. Yeah, do we need a second?
Yes.
Director Leonard, second.
Second.
Secretary Qual, could you please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Seamson to place amendment number 1 on file, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is Amendment 2 by Directors O'Halloran and Leonard on trauma coach positions. The amendment proposes using the vacancy adjustment to maintain 3 trauma coaches.
Director Leonard, do you have any comments on this item?
Well, obviously, there's certainly a need for it. So we have clearly seen, just from the testimony and anyone that walks into schools and talks to different administrators and staff members on the number of students that are in need of trauma support. And without that, their ability to function in our schools becomes almost impossible for some of those students. And as a teacher for 30 years, I can clearly affirm that you see it happening. So there's no doubt that we need as much support as we can with regards to this area. This was especially prevalent after we came back full-time after COVID. Actually, it was a little bit of a shock to me. I was a little bit callous to the idea, first thinking they would just adjust very quickly, but that has not been the case. So I just have to apologize publicly for having not been aware of how how much of that impact that would be upon our students and a lot of our families, to be very honest. So obviously I support this. I just want to just throw one more thing out there. When we had the Christopher Garreau speak last week, and he spoke of 625, I believe, high school students alone have been counseled by him this year. Obviously, there is a need, and I don't think there's any mystery to that, and that's why I support it.
Does administration have any comments?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, in the 2024-25 budget, the administration prioritized school counselors, social workers, and contracted mental health services as the district's model for trauma-informed mental health services, involved to align with the current professional practice. However, the administration believes in the value provided by the trauma coaches, staff, and recommends that the board, however, proceed as they wish.
Okay, thank you. I consulted with our Secretary Koala, and somebody in the audience had mentioned that it is inefficient to not have public testimony after each amendment. And so I do want to open the floor back up, that if you would like to make comments after the amendments, that you are invited to come to the podium and make comments. So I'm going to go to committee members right now, but if you feel so obliged, please come to the podium. We will recognize you and give you 2 minutes and 30 seconds to comment on the amendment. So,
Madam Chair, if
Yes.
interested speakers could fill out a slip.
Oh, great.
during the
Yes,
discussion,
thank you.
We would still need that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go to committee members, but please come see our secretary if you are interested in public testimony. Do committee members wish to make comments? Yes, President Herndon.
Madam Chair? I think you got it. I'm sorry. Madam Chair, I move that we accept this amendment as presented.
Do I have a second? Oh, two.
I second.
Okay, very Midwest nice to both of you. All right, Secretary Koala, please call the roll.
For the record, Madam Chair, we do not have any speaker requests for this item.
Great.
On the motion by Director Herndon to adopt Amendment 2 as presented, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is Amendment 3 by Directors Gokul-Gandhi and O'Halloran on positions with the Black and Latino Male Achievement and Gender Identity and Inclusion Departments. The amendment proposes maintaining a planning assistant for the BLMA department and maintaining the director of the GII department by eliminating the position of Director of Remote Work.
Okay, I am going to pass the gavel. President Herndon.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Okay. This is similar to Director Leonard's comments from our budget hearings. We've heard that these are really important positions. We've seen the positive impact that both of these departments have had across the district for our young men and especially our LGBTQIA+ community. And so the amendment before you is to retain those positions and the continuation of the good work that has happened here. So I will take the gavel back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Does the administration wish to make any comments?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, the administration and myself support the district's efforts around improving equity, access, and inclusion. Nick Simran will provide additional information concerning the administration's response. Nick.
Thank you. Nick Sinram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. Chair Gokul-Gandhi, committee members. Amendment 3 proposes restoring the Gender and Identity GII Director, 1 Black and Latino Male BLMA Achievement Planning Assistant, and 1 GII Planning Assistant. The administration is recommending eliminating the vacant BLMA Coordinator position to help fund the proposed amendment. This amendment, along with eliminating the vacant coordinator position, will allow for a GII Director, 2 coordinators, and 2 planning assistants. Further, the amendment will allow for 1 BLMA director, 3 coordinators, and 2 planning assistants. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comments? Director Zombor. Sorry, I don't know why I thought a head nod was appropriate to call upon you.
Thank you,
Chair Gokul Gandhi. So would the administration be able to clarify then, I'm just trying to understand how many positions are currently in both offices. So how many director positions and how many planning assistants and coordinators? I just want to get the math right to make sure that I fully understand, and then I might have a follow-up.
Yeah, and I'll add on that, if you could also do the math on what was proposed in the amendment versus the recommendations from the administration, because I think those two things are different. So I will even add a further asterisk if you could do the math on that administration.
Good evening, Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Paulette Chambers, Chief of Staff. Regarding the GII department first, currently in the FY24 budget, we have 1 director, we have 2 coordinators, and 2 planning assistants in the Office of GII. For the Department of GII. For the FY25 school year, it was proposed that GII and BLMA be combined, and then that would have given us a director over GII and BLMA, and then that would have been 2 coordinators for GII and 1 planning assistant for GII. For the FY24 school year for the Department of BLMA, we have 1 director, we have 4 coordinators, 1 is currently vacant, giving us 3 people in the positions, and 3 planning assistants. For the FY25 school year, combining the 2 departments would have left 1 director overseeing both departments, and that would have left, that would have left 4 coordinators and 1 planning assistant for BLMA. With the proposed amendment, we would then have 3 coordinators for BLMA, 2 coordinators for GII, 2 planning assistants for GII, and 2 planning assistants for BLMA.
Director Zambor?
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. Can you list the last, so when you said the amendment, is that the Director Gokul Gandhi and O'Halloran's amendment or the administration's amendment?
Administration?
Or recommended amendment?
Director Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Paulette Chambers, Chief of Staff, that would be with the amendment as amended by administration to cover the recommendation.
My intention was to adopt the amendment as proposed by Director O'Halloran and I, not with administration's recommendations. I don't know if that's was going to be your next question, but I was anticipating that. Do you have any other follow-up?
I guess a comment. So I think one of the things that that I'm concerned about with this budget, we're making a lot of cuts, and I've heard from we've been hearing from our community that I think there's concern about having more administration, and I think people are looking to us to make cuts from more admin positions. And so what I'm worried about is the way this is written, it's cutting a director position to fund another director position. Ideally, we would cut a director position to fund a teacher position in our schools. So I'm wondering kind of how my colleagues feel about a possible alternative. Instead of cutting instead of adding the director of GII or maybe the planning assistants, I kind of want to see how people feel about this. Instead of doing that, actually using this, the proposed cuts by the maker to fund a district mentor position. We know that we have a lot of early career teachers that are really struggling right now. and our students need teachers who have the tools and support needed to reflect and refine their careers and their practice. As a district, we can't retain teachers unless we're protecting and expanding that program. And so I'm really concerned about the lack of support for new teachers and what that's going to do to our students if we don't have a strong mentor program in place. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a possibility. I know we can continue to do more work on this, but to see if anyone would be agreeable to that, then I think I would be interested in making a substitute motion on this amendment.
We don't currently have a motion on the floor, so.
Oh, okay. Director Simpson?
So Director Zambor, could you just walk through then, given what's in front of us, like what you would?
So a district mentor position, and Ms. Kreitzman can correct me if I'm wrong, we would need roughly $122,000, let's just say $122,000 to fund a district mentor position. So you could take, we'd have to get a little more maybe from the vacancy adjustment, but if we took out the director position and instead replaced that with the district mentor position, upped the vacancy adjustment a little bit, that's a possibility. But I also think it's important that, if someone would prefer to keep the director position and maybe eliminate the planning assistants or look at the vacant position, I'm open. I'm just worried about using that cut to fund more administration, more bosses, instead of teachers.
Any follow-up? Okay. I wish you would have come with an amendment, a separate amendment, instead of using this one. We've heard through public testimony that, and in fact, even going back to the creation of GII, we heard that our LGBTQI plus students were not being supported. First of all, the Black and Latino male achievement and GII are serving two really different student populations. And so I do believe in maintaining directors for both of those positions. We're not creating more director positions. In fact, through this amendment, we're taking away a director position. So to state that we're creating more, there's actually a change of one in terms of negative director positions. So I would not be amenable as the amendment maker to do that. I think if you came with another amendment to support district mentors, absolutely. I just don't know that it needs to be co-opted from this amendment at the point. So that would be my point of view. I'm looking for more comments from the board floor. Director Simpson, go ahead. Oh. Go ahead.
So it's more of a practical question. So how many, I don't know if maybe I wasn't listening or didn't get it right. How many people, when we're talking about these directors and planning assistants and coordinators, do they all go into schools? I'm under the impression that they do, but I'm not sure. I just need some clarification on that.
We will turn to administration for that.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee. Regarding the structure of the program from FY24 to FY25, this is something that we looked at very intensely. And looking at planning assistants, coordinators, coaches, directors, admin assistants, secretaries, we looked at all of the positions across the departments. And in the FY24 school year, we had, and forgive me, I do not have this broken down by each department, just for my office, which is Restorative Practices, PBIS, GII, and BLMA. But for our departments for FY24, we had what we consider in front of positions at 29 students as it was funded with the ESSER grant. As combining, trying to accommodate keeping the departments after the loss of ESSER, we were able to have 23 staff that are considered still in front of children. So even though we put a shift between the departments that affected 11 staff members in some form, it actually only took 6 away from the 4 departments that are considered in front of children in schools. When we looked at this, we considered, again, coordinators, coaches, planning assistants as people who are in front of children. We did not look at administrative assistants, chiefs, and directors as being in front of children. We looked at them as more coordinating the work, directing the work, overseeing, and, behind the scenes work. Also, we have supervisors that were considered in front of children as well.
Director Leonard, any follow-up?
So, and then I just out of curiosity, how many district mentors do we have with the new budget? Where are we at with that?
Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Lonnie Anderson, if you would go forward.
Chair Gogan Gandhi, members of the committee, Lonnie Anderson, Senior Director of Organizational Development. For FY24, we have 9 district mentors.
Okay. Director Leonard, any follow-up?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. Could the administration, so it's my understanding that, and you might not have this information, but I did hear the number that in 2008, we actually had 30 district mentors. Does that sound about right? And just over time, we've lost a lot of district mentors and scaled back that program.
Administration?
Director Gogan Gandhi, members of the committee, Lonnie Anderson, Senior Director of Organizational Development. We've never had 30 full-time mentors. You may be referencing LTs, so limited term employees.
Director Zambor?
For FY25, we're projecting 7 full-time mentors.
Director Zambor?
For how many teachers?
Administration?
That would depend on the number of new teachers we have. Right now, I believe there's a projection of 200 and something new teachers for next year.
Director Zambor? Okay. Any other comments? Director Simpson?
So in thinking of the director's positions for these 2 departments, I do feel like they are very different in terms of the population that they represent, the skill set that's needed, and the work that needs to be done. So I do hesitate a little bit to combine, to the idea of combining those director positions or, merging those departments under one umbrella, because the work is very, very separate, in my opinion. However, I do also see a need for mentor teachers, and I don't know, a future budget amendment would be, I think, something that would be important for a board director to bring forward, because I do agree that 7 mentors for 200 teachers is a pretty heavy lift. So I remember my mentor from my first year, and I just loved it when she walked into my classroom, and it really is meaningful and impactful for a new teacher to have that mentor that they trust, that they can go to and ask questions. So not sure if I want to mess with your budget amendment as it's written, but I do think it's something necessary for this budget cycle.
Any other comments? Yep, Director Zambor?
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. So I just want to say I'm comfortable with where the cuts are happening. I'm just not comfortable with adding another director position. So I'm not going to be supporting this, but I just want to be really clear why.
That's fine. And for the record, again, we're not adding, we're maintaining. So I just want to have that for the record. Any other comments? President Herndon?
Yes, I'm really torn on this because we definitely need to protect our mentors. We have so many new teachers coming to the district, and we certainly don't want to lose the skills that are already here. We need them. We need those years of experience. So I'm really torn on this. I would ask Director Simpson, she spent of another amendment perhaps. So could you elaborate on that, please?
Oh, Director Simpson.
I hadn't. I don't have one prepared. I just think that it would be important for a board director. I'm willing to take that on, but to put together a budget amendment to increase the number of mentors that we have for our teachers. So whether it's me or another board director, I would hope that we could see that in this budget cycle moving forward. So if nobody does it, I promise I will. Is that helpful?
Any follow-up, President Herndon?
If she's willing to do it, I'm more than happy to work with her to make it happen.
Amazing. A working board. We love to see it. Any other comments? Okay. Do I have to pass the gavel to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to pass the gavel.
I have the gavel.
Okay. I move that we adopt the budget amendment as written by the amendment makers.
That motion requires a second.
Second.
You have the chair, Director Herndon, so the second would need to come from someone else.
Okay, second.
Thank you. And if you're ready for the roll.
Okay, I'll move the gavel back.
Oh, okay. Secretary Koala?
On the motion by Director Gokul Gandhi to adopt amendment number 3 as presented by the sponsors. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
No.
And Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 1 no. The amendment, the motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is Amendment 4 by Directors O'Halloran and Simpson on restorative practices positions. The amendment proposes maintaining the Director of Restorative Practices and 2 coaches using the vacancy adjustment.
Would the, I'm so sorry, Director Simpson, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Although I know I will not do better than the students that we heard from this evening. So my apologies for that. So one thing that has come up every time we've looked at the parent and community engagement meeting, and we look at the suspension rate and the things that we're doing in the classroom as alternatives to suspension. I know one of the things that we've asked numerous times is, how come some of the restorative practices techniques aren't used more? We see them, but we'd like that number to increase because it's a very valuable tool and very helpful and very proactive. And I think that it's really important to have this department be maintained as best as we can, and with the idea of not just for this next school year, but also for building capacity in the future. I think that the well-being of our students and their mental health is really important, the mental health and well-being in the classroom, and the best learning can't happen unless that's in place. So I think it's really important to have 2 of the coaching positions restored of the proposed 4 that were cut, as well as the director position.
Thank you. Does the administration have any comments?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Amendment 4 proposes restoring the restorative practice director and 2 restorative practice coaches. Nick Simram will add additional statements in regards to the amendment. Nick?
Thank you. Nick Sindram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. If passed, the department will consist of 1 restorative practice director, a restorative practice supervisor, and 8 restorative practice coaches, and 1 planning assistant in the Department of Restorative Practices. Again, the administration recommends that the board determines how it wishes to proceed.
Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Leonard.
So just an overarching kind of comment. So restorative practices, to me, is the overarching culture or the vehicle for cultural change in our district. And when we see it happening in buildings and you get to view it and watch it, and I've been able to watch it for the past 3 years, it makes a significant difference when it comes to how how to work with students, how to create shared leadership, and all the things that we want to see our children doing as they get older and get to that high school level. So I'm going to always be very supportive of a restorative practices approach. And I do believe, well, I know, I don't believe, I know, after 3 years of PACE meetings, that has been brought up on a consistent basis. There's a very clear desire by the community and community members and a number of staff members, et cetera, that definitely want to see this eventually take over or immerse the whole district so that every classroom and every building is using this policy and this approach. And they do, and I do believe if we ever get the money that we really need, this is one thing that needs to be taken care of. So that, just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'd like to pass the gavel to make a comment. No? President Herndon, can I pass the gavel to make a comment? Thank you. I would like to agree with Director Leonard. You know, I think eventually the dream is to move away from any sort of punitive disciplinary actions and move towards restoring our young people. We know we live in a world where we're seeing a lot more violence, we're seeing a lot more disagreement and hate, and so if we can really take kids and teach them how to do proper conflict management at a young age and really do it on a scale. You want to talk about scale, talking about 70,000 potential students who will have this. I do think that's the dream, and so I think it's really important that we maintain it, and I think we also heard from public testimony that this is something that our constituents are hoping that we continue to invest in, and so thank you for bringing this amendment forward, and I am supportive of it. And I will take the gavel back. Any other?
Gavel returned.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, okay. Oh, Director Seamson, are you?
I move that we approve this budget amendment as written.
I second that move.
Great. Thank you, Director Leonard. Secretary Koala?
On the motion by Director Seamson to approve Amendment Number 4 as presented by the sponsors. Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director Seamson?
Aye.
Director Zambor?
Aye.
And Chair Gokul-Gandhi?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last amendment on tonight's agenda.
Okay, well, I thank everybody who has testified up until now for your, oh, I'm so sorry. Hello. You're so far away and you blend into the chair a little bit. Director Leonard, go ahead.
I just have to speak to some of the issues that are brought up by the speakers. I don't want them to think, oh, great, we've covered this part, but our comments were not even looked at, and that's not the case. And I know some of them personally, so I will be honest. But I do have some concerns that I need to bring up. One of the questions that I'm very concerned about, and I'm getting this almost on a daily basis, is that people that are losing positions, the process is not being followed as it should be, or at least it's not explained as it should be. So that's one question. And I'm not necessarily asking you to answer this here, because I believe that since this works with regards to employee relations, I do not know if you can actually say that in a full public meeting, but I do ask that at least I get that explanation so that I can have that information when I'm talking to people, because I'm getting almost daily calls on this. So it's not something that is isolated, it is something that's very much a concern. And Mr. Kennedy, I don't know if he's still in the building, but I have to wholeheartedly agree with them. And this board would by far prefer to take those tax dollars for the stadium and everything else and put it into our school district. You have to be ignorant to not understand how important it is to take care of our students. So this board has no doubt wants to support that process. I just need to show complete support for those statements. And then the other concern I have, I do have a concern, and I'm getting this, and I think President Nicholas already left from the NAACP. We've had a few conversations, and he has presented some information to me that I can't put it in a amendment form because I don't understand the cost of it. I'll be very honest with it. I've wrestled with it for about almost 2 months now. But I do believe that we have to do something with regards to academics, and we have to do it now, and we have to take a very, very serious look at why we're not getting the success rates we need. I mean, I can bring up a lot of factors why. We can talk about this, but on the board floor, if we don't at least recognize the situation and try to do something about it, then we fail as a board. There's no other way to say that. So anyway, just some comments, and I'll leave it at that. I'm not really asking for anybody to come back to me, just to make sure that eventually I get that information.
I do see Ms. Matalini has come out to the floor, so I'm going to give administration a chance to respond if they'd like to.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. I won't get into specifics of any position, but just generally, I wanted to touch upon the accessing process. While individuals were accessed at the school level, which means their position might have been eliminated, we have guaranteed them employment for the upcoming year. And through our staff exchange process, we have 2 cycles where teaching staff can interview for positions. And so they can find positions in other schools. If they are unable to find a position in those cycles, we have a reassignment process where we'll put them somewhere in one of the positions that are available. We have made it very clear no one's going to be out of a job. They will have a position, some level at the start of the school year, whether it be a teaching position at a school. They will be somewhere, but we just want to make that very clear. The accessing process at the school level, we have a time frame where we notify schools by before cycle A. So staff are aware before cycle A starts that they are being accessed and they can participate in cycle A. It's just a little different when it comes to the central office positions when those budgets, those department budgets weren't determined prior to the start of cycle A. So the administration made those staff aware as soon as possible for those teaching staff that weren't being accessed, that they were going to be losing their position and had the opportunity to participate in cycle B.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I also want to just echo the sentiment around academics. I will assure you that every effort has been made and put into this budget of what we could afford around academics. Some of the things that you're seeing is from ESSER 1, 2, and 3, additional, when it comes to additional staff that was placed in schools. That's the staff that we had to find places to place into the regular budget and was unable to do so. So those cuts that you see are coming from there. But when we talk about academics, we have textbook adoptions that are in the budget. We have money set aside for tutoring for all of our students. We have dual enrollment for the colleges and universities where they will be able to get dual credit. We have apprenticeship programs and internship programs. And we have increased to each school $250 per student. So those dollars are in schools. One thing that you have not seen is schools down here saying we don't have what we need. I would love to be able to give even more, but we gave what we could. And schools were where the rubber meets the road, and that's where we put the funding for schools, students, around students to support students' academic needs.
Director Leonard, any follow-up?
I think, and I'm not doubting that. I see it, and this is $32 million of our budget was ESSER dollars for staffing. So there was no question we were going to run into this problem. We were worried about this from the very beginning because we knew that this would be, eventually this day would come and we would take that loss. I just want, me personally, I want to do a much deeper dive into why we are not getting that success that we really need. I think a big part of it has to do with, I even question, to be honest with you, I even question the textbook adoption, $15 million. And when I understand that much money is going into textbook adoption and the way that is set up, that's all well and good. But my experience as a teacher, it's that teacher in front of those students working at the level, professional level they should be working at, that makes a significant difference. It's also the amount of parents that are involved directly. I was well educated, but my mother was part of that reason. Okay, so I have to bring these things up because if we could change that one situation in this district and show significant gains, and when we see it with, I forgot the name already, Forward Scholars, I see it with their programs, I see it with the direct instruction we've done with reading over the years, and it's gone back and forth because of both finances and lack of training. I really believe we have to be very serious about the programs we use to make sure that we are seeing progress in those buildings. I'm not really blaming anybody. I'm not looking for blame. I'm looking for, we have to come up with some very simple, straightforward solutions on those basics so that by the time they get to 5th, 6th grade, they're reading or they're in the process of reading. Because it concerns me as a teacher when I go in there and I see, I'm going to be honest, talking to 19 students in a high school freshman class, and 4 of them could not read. That's a concern, and that's something we can take that onus on. We are the educators. We can do that, and I can't stress this enough. And I would love to be able to go through that budget like the state does and take 9 months to really dig into it in the right way so that we could literally look at what's working and what is not working, and this would be for all of us, so that we can make a difference in that situation. I feel like we get a budget and the state says, here, you got basically 1 month to put this together, and I don't think that does justice to our parents and our families, et cetera. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox. I don't do that very often, but I am today, so sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from committee members? President Herndon, go ahead.
Yes, I want to say that that was one of my plans once this budget cycle is over, was to ask for data that provided us detailed information on the Forward Scholars program, the tutoring program. At the surface, it has been extremely successful. The thing that they teach is pretty much straight phonics. And for the most part, that's the way most of us learned how to read at a very early age. So I'm with you, Director Leonard, is that we need to totally investigate that. I've been on that soapbox for decades at this point. Thank you.
Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. I do want to back up and just ask one more question about the seniority. I have also been hearing, and I know we heard from a speaker tonight about staff getting accessed not by seniority, and I've heard like some other reasons about maybe why that is, but I mean, the handbook's the handbook, seniority is seniority. How is this happening?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Zambor, members of the committee, Adrian Madeleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. When it comes to accessing, we look at seniority, but there's other factors involved. We've got to look at licensure, and additionally, you have traditional layoffs or accessing due to budgetary reasons, but then also you have positions that are looked at that are being funded through a grant, or it could be ESSER, where their funding is limited. There's a time frame. Individuals know when those positions are gone, when that time is up, that they return to their old position. So at that point, they are accessed from that grant-funded position, and they have to go back to a previous position that they held. So yeah, those are the factors. It can be nuanced depending on the situation, especially when you're looking at the non-school-based positions that are being accessed, because we have nuances in the supports and how we divvy up the work and support elementary schools versus high schools and the specialties that those staff may have.
Director Zambor.
I mean, I understand how some positions are funded through grants, but funding source shouldn't trump seniority. So how are we, this still doesn't make sense to me.
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Zambor, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. Well, that's the case. I mean, you have grant-funded positions. You're going to essentially say a person that held the position earlier than another individual that is not tied to a grant could lose their position because we created a position through a grant that happens to be having the same title. So that's where it gets a little tricky when you look at that, because grant-funded positions are separate. Other individuals that were hired through regular board funds had no indication when they took that job they could potentially lose it because down the line a grant-funded position came in that had that same title.
Director Zambor?
I don't want to keep going back and forth, but I still don't. I mean, I think we're doing it wrong, and I think that the teachers, then people need to know up front, or there needs to be some kind of documentation where people are waiving their seniority rights if they take a job like that. People just seem shocked and surprised that their seniority is not being honored. So I'll just leave us with that, but I think something needs to change to be either more clear, or we need to right some wrongs.
Yeah. I will just add, I also have heard many of the same complaints, and so I guess my question, I'm going to add on to your comments here. You know, administration, can you take a look at your process? And I think probably the correct committee would be AF&P for that to come through as a personnel matter, and that we add this to an agenda item so we can really understand, allow people to comment on it who've experienced it, and then move forward with some recommendations on how we equitably understand this process and make some continuous improvements to it. Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, we will be more than happy to do just that. However, we will also circle the wagon around this process that we're currently in right now, and also report back to you as well.
Great. Any other comments? What robust discussion tonight. Okay, well, again, everyone in the audience, thank you for coming. Actually, before we leave, Secretary Qualla, can you just note the remaining budget hearing, or the planning sessions that we have coming up? I think there's 2 next week.
Next week, we have 2 committee meetings, AFP
Correct.
and SASE.
Yep.
But this committee, the Strategic Planning and Budget Committee, will hold one more final discussion and public hearing on the budget at its next meeting scheduled for May 28th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. here in the Central Services Auditorium. At that meeting, the committee members may also consider and take action on additional amendments that are proposed. The public can continue to send written comments to the board through the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53201, by fax 2414-475-8071, or by email to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us.
Okay, thank you. There being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.